Hello, Steve. How's it going?
Hey, okay. 69 degrees, light breeze.
Yeah, it's about this. You're on the Cape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't tell, but I have my bathing suit on. I'm gonna run to the beach right after this.
Ah, great. Water
Um,
warm there?
Mid 70s.
Well,
It's
that's
not
nice.
bad.
Well, that's
I'll
5 degrees warmer than
I'll
here.
go in until it's in the 50s. So,
Oh,
Good afternoon.
hi, Jen.
Hello.
Kay and Steve, just before we formally begin, I know we're waiting on John anyway. I just sent you both a letter that the property owner put together to share with, myself and the board. So if that's something you just want to take a minute to read over before we begin, feel free.
okay.
You're muted, Kay, if you're talking.
Okay.
Have you heard from John by chance?
No. Have you?
I have not. I thought he had a hard out at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Right.
So we should have him read this letter too before we get started, don't you think? If he hasn't already.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, it's up to you, Kay, if you want to call the meeting to order for the sake of time, or if you want to give it a few more minutes.
Just give me 1 second here. I'm going to call the meeting to order, so that's done, and do a roll call. So we're all ready when John arrives. So it's Friday, August 30th at 12:48 p.m. I'm Kay Peterson, chair.
Stephen Kruskal, member.
And we also have here Jason Belmonte, Health Director, and Jennifer Stitt, or Stilt, or Stitt, ST,
Thank you.
who is a friend of Mr. Rice. Is it Rice or Reese?
Reese.
Reese, Mr. Reese, okay. I'm gonna text John and tell him we're waiting for him.
And the meeting is already recording, it looks like. Okay, correct?
Yes, it is recording.
That way Suzanne can actually do the minutes for us next week.
Yes. Because if we chit chat, then she'll have to put that in the minutes. All right, I texted John. Here he comes. Hi, John.
Hello,
Hey.
John, welcome.
Nice seeing
Um,
everyone. So I'm a few minutes late.
It's all right. There isn't a letter from Mr. Reese that's in your email that would be good for you to just to read before we get started.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks. John, we did a roll call already, so do you want to just announce your presence for,
John Quackenbush present.
okay. Suzanne is going to take minutes from the recording.
All right,
So we're obviously here to discuss Mr. Reese's situation with his home on Yorkshire Drive. And Jason, you want to do a very quick summary of where we are with things?
Yeah, of course. I know everyone on this meeting is aware of the situation for the most part, but just at least for the record. So 25 Yorkshire Road is the property in question.
Can I just say for John that Jennifer Stitt is a friend of Mr. Reese?
Oh, John.
Hi, nice to meet you, Jennifer.
Sorry, Jason.
No, it's okay. So 25 Yorkshire Road is the property in question. This all stems from a call we received a few weeks back from a concerned acquaintance of Mr. Reese. So this led to a few follow-up visits to the property, ultimately leading to us entering the home. And that's when I actually observed these issues, lack of running water, lack of plumbing, no smoke or carbon monoxide detectors that worked, and just an accumulation of garbage. So earlier this week, since I deemed this to be an emergency situation, I, on my own, deemed the house to be unfit for human habitation. I notified Mr. Reese verbally and with a letter as well. So that kind of leads us to where we are today. At any point after we've deemed the house unfit for human habitation, we can then condemn it, which means we'd be asking the individual to vacate the premises as well as secure the premises. So I'm asking the board. I wanted to bring this to you guys so we could kind of go through a formal process on it and leave it up to you to make a final determination.
So Jason, I want to ask what vacating the premises means. Does it mean that he is allowed to have contractors there working on the house?
He can go back and forth to the house and go in and out. Workers can do the same. It's just no one can live there. He can't stay there. He's welcome. People are welcome to work there during the day. It's just he can't be living there. He can't be sleeping there.
Mhm.
And if he makes the necessary repairs and upgrades and cleans it out, he would then have to apply for a certificate of occupancy and have the home inspected. Is that correct?
Yes, we would have to lift the order of condemnation.
And what does that involve specifically? Who has to, is it your inspection? Does the building department have to be involved or the fire department?
No, it would just be us because the order came from us.
I see. And so, once he's ready for that, then it would be a matter of you going to the home, going inside again and inspecting. So the lag time would not be great. And the lead time, I mean, for doing that. Could
Yeah,
happen.
I
once
mean,
you-
listen, he could, I know everyone just read the letter. He could have all these urgent fixes done in the next 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, I really don't know. It's all going to depend. But the bottom line is, I think as of today, August 30th, 2024, the house isn't fit to live in.
Mhm.
So I think the best thing to do right now is to condemn it until all these issues can be sorted out and we can at least get the house livable.
Steve,
Steve.
Jason, does condemnation necessitate an order to vacate the premises?
It's kind of a separate thing, but they go, for the most part, they go hand in hand. So we would be, in addition to ordering a condemnation, we'd be ordering to vacate and secure. So they kind of go together. Yes.
To my knowledge, that may or may not be correct. I know in other states, condemnation is allowed without orders to vacate.
But to me, it seems that regardless of whether or not they are linked or not in other states, that the house as it stands right now isn't really livable. And, I appreciate that Jason has provided documentation for the last few days about the state of the house and some of the issues that are present there. I think it's, a positive sign that Mr. Reese is taking steps to fix these issues and address them. But it doesn't sound to me like, at the present moment, the house would meet the definition of being occupiable. So, it really does seem to me that this is probably the appropriate step. I'd love to hear from Ms. Stitt if she has something to add. But Steve, what were we going to say?
I would love to hear from Ms. Stitt too, as well, as to whether Mr. Reese wishes to leave his house during this period of time of remediation, and whether, if he does not, whether there's some mode that we can find to allow that to occur and let him stay in his own house.
Hi, everyone. It seems to me that as of now, with the visits from Jason and the officials and the Council on Aging now that people have seen inside the doors for the first time in 30 years, you know, he understands it's not really habitable. And I think he even stated that in the letter, which he'd just gotten to me minutes before this meeting. You know, he's a very good writer. He's very good at expressing his thoughts and his desires. His desire is to stay in the house, you know, for as long as he possibly can. You know, he absolutely loves the home and being in Dover. So I believe he actually said he fully agrees with the steps needed to make the house livable, which I think anybody who's seen the house, I've only been inside the house this one time this past Monday, was it, when I met you in person, Jason?
Right.
So yeah, he knows it was cluttered, and you know, I don't think he disagrees with any of that. So he has checked into the Marriott Courtyard in Natick and is prepared to stay there until he reschedules his train. He has rescheduled a train. I don't know if it's relevant here or if it's even appropriate to mention personal things, but he did have an appointment down in Virginia. He also has a home down there that he just kind of goes back and forth between the two. And in fact, he's spent a great deal of time down there over the past really 2.5 years. I'd say a majority of the time he spent out, not, you know, more than 50%, but not a whole lot more, I guess. So I think this is, you know, it sounds like there's the definitions around these things, but I think the determining it of being unfit to live in, I think even Fred would say, yes, I can kind of understand that, but he didn't want to leave. He was perfectly comfortable staying in his room the way it is without water. I mean, he's been doing that whenever he's in Massachusetts, and he's really comfortable with it. But with the encouragement of everybody that's been out in the past week, he has made a lot of progress. He's asked me to make a lot of phone calls, figure out who the junk removal company is, you know, find numbers for, you know, plumber. And so when I was out there Monday, I was making some calls. I've done everything I can to step in as a friend. He doesn't, you know, I'm kind of the one person he's turned to, and but I don't live terribly close. I'm an hour and a half to 2 hours away. So I don't plan to be physically involved in any of this. So I leave it to you as the professionals and anybody else involved in this whole process that's been out there to really look out for him and his well-being and of the neighborhood. If there are, you know, if there's anything else on that list, which he really doesn't like it if I ask too many questions, and I respect that. He's like, what are the minimum things to get the house livable and make it sure it won't be condemned? But I think any of us who care for friends and family, we don't want them to exist in the bare minimum, especially when, in my judgment, he doesn't have to. It's simple to live somewhere more, you know, livable. So.
Well, I think you sound like a great friend, and he's fortunate to have you, and we appreciate your coming to this meeting to share your thoughts and
Of course.
and his perspective as best you can. And we understand you're not the same. You can't be a perfect proxy for him, but it's helpful to have somebody who's connected to the man here. I would say my opinion here is that despite the fact that he has been living there in these conditions for quite some time, and despite the fact that nothing bad has happened to him as a consequence, that it's impossible for us as a Board of Health to sanction its continuing this way. That it's our obligation really to condemn the property and make sure that he, I see your hand, Steve. I'll call on you as soon as I'm done. It's our responsibility to be firm about the fact that no one should be living there until the work is done. And I would say with a little asterisks that I think we should define which of the items on Jason's list constitute a requirement for correction before he could move back in, and which are more optional. And having the floors polished is not necessary, but having working smoke detectors and having working plumbing, I would view as requirements. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so if I could just jump in quick and not to jump in front of you, Steve, but the specific items that I wrote in the letter that we've all seen at this point, those are the specific items that are those are items that are considered life safety issues. So those are the items that need to be done, all need to be done 100% before he can resume living there. There's plenty of other stuff going on in the house for sure. But those are the main things that the housing code identifies as, life safety issues that need to be corrected within 24 hours. So my goal with this was to just call those out specifically. I really didn't go in and do a full quote unquote housing inspection. It looks like I had to run out for a second. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea. So those are the things that have to be fixed before it's considered in any way livable. Go ahead, Steve.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
Ms. Stitt, did Mr. Reese request legal representation at any time?
No, in fact, I have called his estate and elder care services attorney that I had referred to him years ago, and got him up to see her during when COVID started. I realized he didn't have any kind of healthcare proxy, and so I said, "You really need to have all these paperwork." He didn't have any of that, so I let her. I've spoken with her, had emails with her, sent her pictures about all, and then had a long conversation again with her yesterday, asking her. Fred can't really do this sort of meeting, doesn't have any virtual, doesn't have a computer or anything like that. And he's asked me to step in. Should I? Because I feel should it be you, the attorney? And she talked to me for a while. And she said, I think you can just state what, just be his proxy. And so he has said all along, he didn't even feel the need to call her. He said, we'll get legal help involved if we have to, if the worst happens. And I think he thinks of the worst probably be even worse than what I'm hearing is the label of condemnation. He's already acting as if it has been condemned, from what I'm hearing. He's of the impression that he's not supposed to be living there. He needs water and all this stuff. He's not going to, renovate the house. He's not going to get any new cabinetries or floors or any, I don't believe so. But no, he didn't ask for any. I have urged him to talk to the lawyer, but he says, no, I'm okay. I'm busy enough. I'm going to just work to these tasks. So.
And to continue, and this is a bit of an aside, but have we heard from our legal representation that the person who made the complaint has standing?
What does that mean?
As I understand it, the person who made the complaint is not a relative, not an abutter, nor a neighbor. In fact, in all likelihood, does not even live in town.
How's that relevant?
Because the question is whether he has standing. In other words, if he did not have standing, we should not be hearing this complaint.
That's not true, Steve.
Well, he may well have standing, but if he didn't have standing.
There's no such thing as having to have standing to report elder neglect.
Has our attorney confirmed that?
It was a health complaint that we received. He's a human being, so that qualifies him as someone who can make the complaint.
Yeah. I agree with Kay. I think it's our responsibility to take this step. And I'm encouraged by the fact that Mr. Reese is trying to make the necessary improvements to make the house livable. I am also happy that it's something that can be relatively easily reversed once he makes the necessary improvements in the house. I mean, I'm worried about someone living in a house that's not only lacking in, appropriate plumbing and a workable septic system, but also that somebody who, he's going to, in his letter, he wrote that he's going to have a consult for hip surgery. I mean, I'm concerned about him just being able to get in and out of the house should there be a fire or anything else. So I think there are a lot of really simple things that are important to consider here. And to me, all of them right now point to us taking this step and then working with him to try to remedy them so that he can get back in the house, because that's clearly his desire and something we should try to facilitate for him.
Well, had he not sent us the letter that we just read, I'd have great concern about dispossessing him from his house, with him being unwilling. But he's taken a step, evidently, where he already is living at another site, and we don't have to be too concerned about that at this moment, unless he were to return to the site without our knowledge and start living there again. There is a precedent in this town, and it's 17 Center Street. It might be in the Board of Health records. About 10 years ago, someone was allowed to live in their house, even though it was condemned, because they did not also have plumbing. And that person lived in the house a good long time. There was not vigorous enforcement of the condemnation.
Are you saying that's a good thing, Steve, or a bad
I'm
thing?
not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying this precedent where he contesting this.
I don't think precedent is relevant here. I mean,
Yeah, neither does the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so if that is indeed true, Steve, that was a failure on the town's part. Us knowing about this, we have a duty to act on it, so that's what we're doing here.
I would agree.
ditto.
Should we vote, Kay?
I think so. Can we, can someone make a motion?
So I'd like, I'm
Sorry, John, if I may, just before we get into the motion, so it's an order of condemnation and an order to vacate and secure the premises.
Right. So I move we issue an order to vacate the property at 45, I don't know the street immediately.
25.
25 Yorkshire Street, and issue an order to vacate and secure the property until such time as the house is approved for occupancy following correction of the deficits that have been identified.
I don't think you actually said condemnation, so could you add that, John?
I thought I said at the beginning before I lost the address. So I move that we issue an order of condemnation for the property at 25 Yorkshire, and issue an order to vacate and secure the property until such time as the house is approved for occupancy following the remedy of the situation and the items that had been identified by Jason during his inspection.
Second. All in favor?
John Quackenbush, aye.
I,
KP.
Stephen Prescott.
All right, so
Okay, everyone.
so my plan from here is first thing I want to do after the meeting is I just want to call Mr. Reese and let him know what the situation is. And then either on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week when I return to the office, I will actually go out to the property, post a placard on the door, and I will post a letter on the door, and I'll also make sure we send a copy of it to Mr. Reese wherever he is staying. I'll have to find that out and get that information from him, you know, exact hotel, room number, all that stuff. And the hope is property will be vacated, all the doors locked up. And I'm gonna make a request to Mr. Reese that he give me the key to the house. Just that way I'm the holder, and if anyone needs to get in or out, they can go through us to actually do that. Steve?
A few questions. I believe there's an appeal process that Mr. Reese may choose to avail himself of. Is that correct?
Sure, you can appeal any order for the most part.
Okay. Secondly, is there any other filing requirement on our part regarding this action, such as with the town or beyond the town, such as with the county or a notice in the press?
I believe we technically have to notify, I don't know what the mortgage situation is, but if I had to guess, I don't know if you know, Jen, but the house is probably paid for.
Yes, it's all paid for.
Yeah, so you would typically notify any, whoever the holder of the mortgage is, and any lien holder, that those type of things. But I don't know that it applies in this case. But nonetheless, I would at least notify assessing.
Jason, this is not a requirement, but the caseworker from Springwell, the Elder Services Agency, wants to be notified of the outcome of this meeting. So could you give her a call? I have her private, not her personal number, but her private line. If you
Yeah.
want that
Yeah,
easier
of
than
course.
going to the switchboard. And just so everyone knows, there is a caseworker from Springwell who's involved in the case and who will be following Mr. Reese after this. Not just, it doesn't end here, but she'll be following up with him as needed.
Does that mean on Tuesday?
I don't know
Okay.
exactly when she'll contact him.
Okay. And if he has this plumbing company scheduled to come out on Tuesday, he will assume if it's condemned and locked, should he assume that he has to cancel that, or how do they do the repair of the plumbing?
I mean, we'll make that work. I wouldn't worry too much about that. We're not gonna
Work with Fred and the plumbing, okay,
Yeah, no one's gonna be locked out of it if they need to get in there for whatever reason.
great. And I think that's good.
Ms. Stitt, do you have any other concerns? Feel free to fire away.
I think this makes sense. That maybe I misunderstood, but it sounds like condemnation is almost more equal to just labeling it unfit to live in, because he knows he can't live in there. He's ready to start fixing it up. And so as long as he has a really good indication from Board of Health and this Springwell that you're just mentioning that I'm hearing about, what
Yes.
things are the difference between what has to happen to make it livable and what really should happen? In my experience, a lot of people don't like to deal in what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? People are like, well, that's not going to happen. But I would prefer to deal in some what ifs. What if this happens? Can you live through it? Whatnot. He'll, he just needs some good advice and counseling, from whatever agencies that can help him get through this, because he's still managing all his own affairs.
Yeah, and so listen, the goal from the beginning here has to help Mr. Reese and get him the assistance he needs. The goal here never was to condemn the house. It just so happens that is the best thing to do right now. But the larger goal here is to make sure he gets the help he needs and gets this place to a point where it is able, livable, and a place he can return to and reside there safely.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
even once he's officially out of there, people are going to continue to work with him. And we'll see if we can get this whole thing figured out and get him back in there.
Okay.
And
Um,
I just want to say instead, I really appreciate the fact that you've gone to such lengths to look after him. And,
It's a
having
difficult- and I-
elderly parents and in-laws,
and I'm not related. I'm a friend of, working on 6 years now, but I've, up till now, I've agreed to kind of to help out, or up to a while ago, just now this is a lot. So I'm hoping that there are some good people to help him that,
but thank you for being there for him.
yeah, of course.
and just so you know, you probably know this, but every town in Massachusetts has a council on aging that has resources available to help people. And so if you're later on down the road, if you are not sure where to turn, that's an option. And you now know Jason. I mean, you could call Jason too, but I think the Council on Aging in general is a good starting place for people when new problems come up.
They're very impressive. I've found working with them, this week, or I'm really impressed. He doesn't use them so much, he knows they're there, but it's on him to prevail himself with their services.
Well, there are a lot of us who are of senior age who say, well, that's not, that Council on Aging, that's not for us, the aging.
Jen brought up a good point a minute or two ago. I just want to maybe give a little bit of clarification. So deeming a house unfit is really just a label. There's really no teeth or anything behind it, if that makes sense. Whereas the condemnation and the order to secure and vacate, that's an actual legal order, which obviously has teeth behind. So that's kind of the difference. They're very similar in what they mean, but it's two different processes. So hopefully that kind of helps give a little bit of clarification between the two of those.
Jason, I think we all appreciate how thoughtfully you've handled this.
Of course. Yeah, my pleasure. It's all these situations are different and unique, but you handle each one as best you can, and so yeah.
I think this is a much better precedent for the Board of Health than letting somebody live in a house for 10 years without
Absolutely.
plumbing. Okay.
All right.
All right, everyone, thank you for your time. And Jennifer, thank you in particular for coming.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jen. Everyone have a great holiday.
Thank you. You too, Jason.
See you guys.